Hey everyone, welcome to the Everyday Human Podcast. My name is Easton Taverna. Each day I'll share a reflection written by me and inspired by literature, poetry, music, movies, video games, and more. And after that, I'll share a prompt for you to write your own reflection. Together, we'll explore what it means to be human. Every month, we'll walk a new path, taking a look at life, death, the universe, and everything in between. Thanks for coming along. I'm glad you're here. For more, visit eastontaverna.com or join me on Instagram at @the_everydayhuman. Hello everyone, it's March 27th. I hope you're doing well. Today's reflection is titled, Bend Not Break. And before I get into it, this was a somewhat difficult one to write and reflect on. It involves primarily the subject of child death, as it was inspired by a haiku by Bashō that deals with exactly that, from an observation he made during his travels through Japan back in the Edo period. So if this is something you're sensitive to, you can make the choice to skip this one or listen on. It's a tough subject, it always is, and especially with recent events in the news with the war in Iran and the bombing of the girls' school. It's sad and horrible and tragic and almost impossible to comprehend. My heart goes out to anyone who's ever had to suffer such a loss. So Bashō was the inspiration for January 2nd, which was titled Make a Splash. And that was back in the beginning of the book/podcast for a month on the topic of existence. I won't spend too much time introducing him, so if you haven't listened to that one yet and want to learn a bit more about this legendary poet, do go back and give January 2nd a listen. Okay, here's the haiku that inspired today's reflection. So, another poet who never really titled his work. This one in the collection I have, I think it's just listed as 22. And there's a note by this haiku, as there is for a number of them, not all of them, but these notes contextualize the haiku. And it's a great collection because at the back of the book, there's actually a lot more information around the ones that they have information on. Anyway, the note says, at the home of the person whose child has died. And that's it. And then it gets into the haiku, which goes like this. Drooping downward, the upside down world of snow on bamboo. Okay, and here's my reflection. It happens every day. It's happening right now. You see the pictures in the news of a woman in grief and despair, her world broken and shattered and turned upside down, holding the body of her dead child like the Pietà. The image of 2-year-old Syrian Alan Kurdi, dark-haired and wearing a bright red t-shirt with blue shorts and those little shoes, face down in the surf on the shore of Turkey, drowned fleeing the war and occupation of his homeland. The remains of little pink sneakers or torn baby blue shirts, blood spattered and scattered about a classroom after a shooter unleashed a weapon of war on 4th graders. Horrible accidents of children falling from a window or being hit by a car on their bikes. Illnesses, both preventable and not, taking little ones who have only spent a couple of years with us here back to the other side. Infants suffocating on blankets or stuffed animals meant to keep them warm and bring them comfort. There is no shortage of the ways these young and innocent lives are cut short. And when this happens, there is a hole left behind that can never, ever be filled. Living through the death of a child is a fate worse than death itself, but it is also a reality of life. A stark reminder that death does not discriminate and does not come solely for the old, those who have lived long and fulfilled lives. It comes for the weak and the strong, the old and the young, the wealthy and poor, the famous person and the one living in the gutter. And when death takes a child from a parent, that person will never stand straight again. When the coffin closes and is buried in the ground, they will be left drooping downward, carrying the weight of the short life of their child, and the weight of all the years unlived, the potential of that child that will never come to be, outside of their own dreams and nightmares. They will play the times over in their mind of when they told their child they were too busy to play with them, when they lost their patience or raised their voice. They would give anything to be woken up again in the middle of the night, to spend the day sick in bed with the preschool virus they caught from their kid, to pick up the toys scattered about the house, to clean up the dolls set up perfectly on the windowsill, despite being utterly exhausted after their baby fell asleep. The parent whose child has died will forever bend with the weight, but they also have a choice. They can let the weight bend them to breaking, or they can wait for time to begin to melt the snow that weighs them down, remaining strong while keeping their new shape, for it will never be forgotten. It is their new way of life and their new reality. It is the way they will always remember that which they have lost, and be grateful for the time, however short it was, they had. And there ends today's reflection. There are a number of quotes that I could have used around this particular subject. There's one by Marcus Aurelius that goes, "As you kiss your son goodnight, whisper to yourself, he may be dead in the morning." Those were obviously different times, but I think I believe he had 14 children. About 9 or 10 of them died before reaching adulthood. There were only 4 or 5 or so that outlived him. Different times or not, it doesn't change the fact that losing a child is probably the hardest thing anyone could ever have to endure. But that particular haiku by Bashō just kind of stuck with me, and I found myself revisiting it and reading it over again, and thinking about the poor person who is bent over like bamboo covered in snow, and thinking about Bashō watching this person and considering their life. And it's a striking image, one that was written around 350 or so years ago, of a tragedy that is, or an experience as well, that is so timeless and very human, unfortunately. And for me, a big takeaway is to, yes, cherish the time that we have with those we love, especially our children, and to kind of not sweat the small stuff and understand that little things that you might get upset about really aren't worth it in the big scheme of things. Like toys left out, or spilled food all over the place, or even if they break something. Like really, who cares at the end of the day? This is a precious little life that needs to be cared for and protected as best we're able to. All right. Here is your reflection question. How can I be more aware of the limited time I have with those I love? In what ways will I resolve to become more patient and present with my children, family, or friends? Okay, and that's it for today, March 27th. I'll be back tomorrow, March 28th, with another reflection. Have a good one, and take care.